So, now the third page on the Mayavad. This is a selection from Tattva Muktavali written by Sripad Madhvacharya. Selections from there. Yeah. You have any paper? Yeah, I don't have that paper, the sheet.
This is by whom you said?
Sripad Madhvacharya. This one. This one. This one. Oh, this is only these three things are there. Yes. Somebody has taken this from here. That's interesting. Okay. Last. Right one. That one? Yeah, this. So, Tattvamasi. So, Tattvamasi. What is the meaning of it? Everybody knows that the Mayavadis, they talk about it. Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi. They say, Tat, the Supreme Lord, Tvam, you, Asi, are that. You are that. If you read some old text or some scriptural text, they say, Thou art that. They say, Thou art. Many of the Western scholars, they say, this is what the Hindu philosophy says. Thou art that. So, Madhvacharya explains, the Mayavadi commentator on the Vedanta claims that the word Tattvamasi or the Mahavakya, the most important statements in the Vedas, according to his explanation, Tat means supreme, Tvam means you, and Asi means are. You are that. He interprets the phrase to mean you are the supreme. And he claims that there is no difference between the supreme and the individual soul. Now, see Vaishnavas what they say, this is not the real meaning of this word. According to Sanskrit grammar, there is something called samasa. Samasa means combination of words. Rama Krishna means what? Rama and Krishna. Rama's Krishna. Like that, there are so many kinds of combinations. Samasas. Depending on what is the combining word. It can be Pratama, Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturthi, first person, second person. In Sanskrit there is like that. Third person, second person, third person, fourth. Like it goes up to sixth. And then there is 7 vibhaktis. We know it's at vibhaktis. Those who read or study grammar, first they are taught the Shabda. Rama Shabda, Krishna Shabda means you have to expand it. In the sense that Ram, Ramas, from Rama, by Rama, on Rama, all these things. So like that it will be like Rama, Rama, Ramayo, Hey Rama, Hey Rama, Hey Ramo, Hey Ramasya Ramanam Ramebhyah, Ramasya Ramayo Ramanam, Rame Ramayo Rameshu. Like that it goes on in Sanskrit grammar. In that way there is one vibhakti called Shashti Tat Purusha. Shashti vibhakti Tat Purusha Samasa. According to that, Tat Purusha means belongingness. Possessiveness. It is the possessive verb. Possessive compound. In English it's called possessive compound. Means mine. His. That is called possessive compound. This is mine. That mine is here. So here, Shashti Tatpura Samasa has to be added. Vaishnava commentators and the Vedanta interpret these words in saying that Tattvamasi is a possessive compound word. Shashti Tatpura Samasa. According to the explanation, Tat means of the Supreme, and the entire phrase means you are the servant of the Supreme. I am yours. Tattvamasi. You are of the Supreme. You are of what? You are a servant of Supreme. In this way, this is how it is explained. That Shashti Tatpurasmasa. Mayavadis, even though they take grammar very seriously, they do a very great grammatical error. And then Tattvamasi, they go on saying. But there is a big grammatical error which they do. So this is Shashti Tatpurasmasa. Now they may argue, and then what about Aham Brahmasmi? Aham Brahmasmi is not Shashti Tatpurasmasa. So then Aham Brahmasmi explained is like that. It's true, the objection will be raised. The Vedas say Aham Brahmasmi. The word Brahman is certainly in the nominative case. Nominative case means Prathama Vibhakti. It is Prathama Vibhakti. This Brahman is Prathama. Prathama Vibhakti means just. There is no question of any article or any other possessiveness, on, off, from, all these things are not there. Just it is mentioned as Brahma, it is Prathama Bhakti. You cannot say it is possessive and thus change the meaning. How is it that you can foolishly interpret Tattvamasi as a possessive compound, Shashti Tatpurasamasa? How can you avoid interpreting the quote of Api? Cha so yam devadattaha. Thou art that, you are that, nominative pratama, and try to make it genitive, shashti. So they may have raised an objection. So now, to answer that objection, Sripad Madhva says, when the scriptures explain that the individual spirit soul is Brahman, the proper understanding is that individual soul are like tiny particles that have emanated from the supreme great fire of Supreme Brahman. As far as the possessive compound Shashti Tatpurusa interpretation of Tattvamasi, you may not like it, but it is certainly grammatically sound. Why do you not accept it? He says that grammatically you cannot find any mistake in Tattvamasi understanding of Shashti Tatpurusamasa. So you should accept it. Another thing is, Brahma, Aham Brahman Asmi. Aham Brahman Asmi. Brahmaham Asmi or Aham Brahma Asmi. It nothing but shows, I am Brahma Asmi means I am part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. That is what is meant from. Understanding is individual souls are like, similarity. Now, sometimes two similar things are put together. Two similar things, say both of them put together and then say is like that. You are like that. So I am like Brahman. Like Brahman. So when we use some words like this, we put the words together when both are similar. I am like Brahman. It is true, Jiva is also like Brahman. Because Supreme Lord is eternal, I am also eternal. Supreme Lord is Anandamaya, He is also is blissful, and He is also conscious, I am also conscious. So I am like God, what is the problem? Like similarity doesn't mean same. That's what Madhva says. So both are similar. God and me are similar. It's true. Similarity is itself is used to show that I am not same. Here it is not said both are same, samana. Both are similar. That is why we say that I am like. Like means similarity. Similarity doesn't prove sameness. That's the argument here Madhva says. Because there are many verses which talk about this thing. I'm just condensing the entire thing and putting it in my speech. Now they give the example, many famous example. Oh, you see, oyster is there, you think it is silver. This is a very famous example they give. Now Madhvacharya says glass is glass, a jewel is jewel, an oyster is oyster, and silver is silver. So some people may think, may take glass as jewel. So Mayavadis, they say, oh, this world is unreal. Like the rope snake example, in the same way they give this example also. You take glass to be jewel, no. And oyster to be silver. These examples they give. And they have not given more examples than this. Whatever is quoted, these are the same examples. They will never lose their nature and become each other. Just because I take glass to be silver, glass to be jewel, that doesn't make the glass jewel. In the same way he says, if one thinks glass is a jewel, oyster is silver, he is mistaken. Impelled by the same kind of illusion, the individual spirit soul imagines he is the same as Supreme Brahman. Now, Madhvacharya takes the same example and puts on them. He is very expert in doing that. He took the rope snake example and put on them. He took the reflection, theory of reflection, put against them only. And he took these two examples of oyster, silver, glass, jewel example and put on them. And he said that this example is very nice. But this example of illusion should be applied to the illusory concept which the jiva has to think that he is God. Actually, the very example you gave of the theory of illusion regarding the world, it is actually to prove the illusion of the living entity to think he is God. So your philosophy is an illusory philosophy. So I give your example back to you. That's what Madhva does. So they say this world is coming from illusion. No, it's not. The world is not coming from illusion. Your philosophy is illusion. And I give the same example to you because you think you are God. That is illusion. Now, interpreting the Vedic description. O Mayavadis, he addresses. If you insist on interpreting the Vedic description of the Supreme Lord in an allegorical or indirect sense, then please tell us why you abandon the direct literal meanings in the favor of these indirect interpretations. Very intelligent talk, what Madhva is doing. Just see, Madhva is not. He says, okay, my dear sir, you are interested in explaining everything indirectly. Why don't you explain those verses which are in your favor indirectly? There are some verses in the Upanishads which talk about Jiva is God. Okay? Then why don't you explain them also indirectly? Isn't it? So then he explains, there are three reasons for rejecting a word as primary meaning and accepting a secondary meaning instead. Morning I told about it, but the elaborate bit is there. Number one, they are, if the primary meaning makes no sense. If you have some words or some sentence in the Vedas, and the meaning, it doesn't make sense if you just take the literal meaning, direct meaning of it. If the tradition or the common usage supplements the primary meaning with a generally accepted secondary meaning. Suppose there is a tradition or something like that which accepts it, then you have to accept the secondary meaning. If an authorized commentary explains that a secondary meaning should be understood, in these three circumstances only, one may reject the primary meaning and accept the secondary meaning of a word. So there are three reasons why we should accept secondary meaning. Number one, when the word is, the first primary meaning is ambiguous. Number two, when a tradition or the Puranas or something like that, there is a lot of description about the secondary meaning being explained. Then, number three, if the authorized commentary of an Acharya, if he gives, then only the secondary meaning has to be accepted. Otherwise, secondary meaning should not be accepted. The primary meaning, now he says, gives example of Putra is son. It's true, Putra means son, everybody knows it. But in the context, it so happens that there is no description of a father. Then the word Putra has to be interpreted as Puta, Tra. Pu means there is a hell named Pu, and Tra means deliver. One who delivers from the hell named Pu. So that is called Putra. So Putra is the secondary meaning is hell named Pu, one who delivers from the hell named Pu. So or who rescues from hell. That is known as Putra. But the secondary meaning should be accepted only when there is no description of a father in the particular prasanga. The primary meaning Putra is son. But if the Putra is described as appearing without a father, means without a father means in that whole sentence there is no mention of any father there, then only the secondary meaning has to be accepted. A text may be interpreted in three ways. This was morning I told. Literal or the primary meaning. Second one, the secondary meaning. Not commonly used word, secondary meaning. And third one is allegorical meaning, allegorical things. As I told in the morning, that the Vaishnavas, they first prefer to have the primary meaning, and secondary meaning are mostly Mayavadis are interested, and the allegorical things are for the modern Indologists, they say allegorical things. So like this seems to be a mythological character, he may represent this thing. Actually the Saraswati river is a mythological river. Like that, these people allegorically think these rivers are only allegorical rivers. They say Mount Meru is not found on its earth, it is a mythological mountain. Like that they write in their books. In order to establish their theory, the Mayavadis have diligently rejected literal interpretation of the Vedic statements and have put forward an interpretation based on accepting the secondary meaning of words. They are interested in secondary meaning. That is their problem. Now, what is the reason? Why these Mayavadis take the indirect meaning? Taking literally, the Vedic sentences do not at all support the theory of the individual soul is the same as the Supreme Brahman. If you take the direct meaning, the problem is you cannot prove that the soul is God. But that is the problem. For this reason, the Mayavadis have rejected the literal meaning of the text and concocted a figurative interpretation based on accepting obscure definition of the words and rejecting the commonly used meanings of words. How do the Mayavadis expect to understand the truth about Brahman if they adopt this dubious policy? It is like this. If you see the Shankara Bhashya, Shankara Bhashya goes in such a way. He says, Jiva is God. And I will prove by using Vedanta Sutra. The very presentation itself is dubious. He first established Jiva is God. He says it. And now I will prove this statement by Vedanta Sutra. He is not explaining the Vedanta in his Sharirika Bhashya. He is not explaining. He is only proving what he wants to prove by the scripture. Like it happens. I want to say something. So to support my sayings, I use scripture. I don't say what scripture says. What I say, to get some weightage for it, I use a scripture. The very presentation itself has been the further disciples of Madhva, when they wrote their books, they have mentioned this point. How come Shankara's Bhashya is a Bhashya? They have rejected accepting Bhashya, the word Bhashya itself on Vedanta, because the very way he has presented is totally different. Because I say this and I will prove from the Vedanta this point. That is not a proper mood. That is how the later acharyas in the Madhva line, they talk about it. So, the Mayavadis claim that the Vedas say that this material world is unreal. Oh Mayavadi, even if this is so, how can you infer from it that Supreme Brahman, who is full of all opulences and the origin of all moving moving and unmoving entities is also unreal. So, if you think that this world is unreal, accepting that, how can you say that this Brahman is real? Real things can come from real things only. If there is a real thing, what comes down to the real thing should be real. Yeah, this point we'll discuss later when it comes to that snakes. Avang manasa gocharam. When they say, when you talk to them and say, Brahman is avang mana gocharam. Avang mana gocharam means it is beyond mind and intelligence. Like the Mataji brought this paper and then said, Bhagavatam says you cannot describe Brahman. In the same way, Mayavadi say, see, you cannot describe, Brahman cannot be described. It cannot be thought of. So let us see how Madhva explains that. The Mayavadi explains that the Vedic statements, Avang Managocharam, Supreme Lord cannot be understood by mind or described by words, prove that the Supreme Lord cannot be described or understood. So they object. So Avang Managocharam means the Supreme Lord Brahman cannot be understood. So to this, the reply is, this description may apply to ordinary words of thought, but not to the words of Veda. It is true, Avang Managocharam, ordinary words and ordinary mind cannot describe. That is true. But not to the words of the Veda. The Vedas elaborately describe the Supreme Brahman. Please do not think that the statement of the Vedas are like limping cripple who cannot describe the Supreme. The very purpose you are commenting on Veda and then say Veda they cannot describe the Lord, it is useless. It is nonsense. And Vedas are not like a cripple, like it cannot describe Supreme. The word Gata has a specific meaning, and the word Pata has also a specific meaning. Various words indicate specific objects. The Vedas, in the Vedas, the word eternity, Chit, that is Sat Chit and Ananda, are used to directly indicate the Supreme Brahman. Words have both primary and secondary meanings. If the meaning of a word is ambiguous, then in course of conversation a proper meaning will be clear by the context. If one enters a conversation when somebody asks a boy, please bring Saindhava, the meaning of a man's statement may be unclear, for the word Saindhava may refer either to salt or horse. However, when the boy returns with Saindhava, the person's intention will be at once understood. In the same way, the proper meaning of ambiguous words in the Vedas become clear when serious student studies the entire body of the Vedic literatures and sees the ambiguous statements in the proper perspective. So Ardha Kukudnai, they just take one statement, Mahavakya, 3-4 words in one verse, and say, hey, just see this Mahavakya, this is what it is, this is what it is. But to understand this, you should know what was there before and what is going to come after. Like example is given, you enter and then you find a man is saying, a boy, get me Saindhava. Now, what does it mean? Is it mean he told to bring salt? Is it mean he told to bring a horse? It is only known when he comes back. When he comes back, he wants salt. That is what the meaning. So you need to know the complete thing. The Mayavadis, their thing is just take one part of it. And it's very prevalent in India. If you go and ask somebody, why didn't you attend a Bhagavad Gita course? Bhagavad Gita, I know. What do you know? Karmanyavadikaraste. I know. Karmanyavadikaraste. Then what is after? No, Karmanyavadikaraste. What is the next day? I don't know. So, Ma Phaleshu Kadachana, that they don't want to remember. Karmanyavadikaraste. That much. 18 chapters they have in the 700 verses. out of which I know the entire Bhagavad Gita. Karmanyavadikaraste. That's all. It's like that, these Mayavadis, this Tattvamasi. Over. Further. Okay. Body means suffering. Let's see what they talk about. Someone may say, the living entities in the material world sometimes suffer and sometimes enjoy because of their bodies. Then if the Supreme has a body, he must also suffer. That is what is the argument. Okay, now I have a body, that is why I am suffering. So whoever has got bodies will suffer. So God has body, so he will suffer. So God doesn't have body. Now the reply is, he must also suffer and enjoy in the same way. The reply is, the conditioned living entities possess material forms subject to 6 changes. We know that. The spiritual body of the Supreme Lord, because he is the master of all opulences. He is not at all like material forms. The Lord's spiritual body is never subject to old age, death, decay, happiness. Someone may object. Every living entity attains a certain body because of past karma. When Supreme manifests body, he will also attain body according to karmic reaction. To that I reply, the Supreme is ultimate controller, and it is he who avoids karmic results to us living entities. As ultimate administrator of the law of karma, he is not under the jurisdictions. That is the relation between him. So they say, well, I got body, God has also got body. So now he will also suffer like me. And not only that, I am suffering because of this body and I am getting karmic reactions. So if he gets a body, then he also because karmic reactions. Now the most important of this entire paper. Sripad Shankaracharya in his Vedanta Sutra also admits this. What does he admit? Just see. Even Shankaracharya admits the eternal distinction between the Supreme and the individual soul. In the Vedanta Sutra, Srila Vyasadeva admits the eternal distinction of the Supreme and the individual souls. In the statement called Karma, Kartr, Vyapadeshascha, there are 2 performers of activity. In his commentary on this sutra, Sripad Shankaracharya admits the eternal distinction between the Supreme and the living souls. In explaining the sutra, Shankaracharya quotes the statement of the Upanishads. Guham pravishtau. He quotes the statement. The 2 living entities, the individual spirit soul and the Supreme Brahman, reside in the heart. So in his commentary, he wrote this thing. See how long he can cover. It is said that you can, if you tell one lie, you have to cover that lie, you tell another lie. And if you tell another lie, you have to tell another lie. In this way, how long you are going to cover your lies? Isn't it? And the Vaishnavacharyas, they have removed this from the Shankara Bhashya. And then brought about this point that how Shankara himself has admitted that there is a distinction between the soul and the Supreme Lord. In his commentary on Vedanta Sutra 125, Shankaracharya quoted words from Bhagavad Gita that clearly shows that Supreme Lord and the living entity, the individual spirit soul, are eternally different entities. If Shankara did not accept that the Supreme Lord and the living souls are eternally different, then how could he have quoted these verses that clearly reveal the relationship between master and servant? That's the question. So in his Bhashya, even in the Shankara Bhashya, you find this thing. The Supreme Lord is situated in everybody's heart. He quotes from Bhagavad Gita, we know this. Hrideshu Arjuna Tishchati, Bhamayan Sarvabhutani, Yantrarurani Maya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everybody's heart, Arjuna, and he is directing the wanderings of the living entity who are seated on the machine made of material energy. Oh, son of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By the grace you will attain transcendental peace and supreme abode. He says in 1862, surrender. So you find, even in Shankar Bhashya, Shankaracharya himself, by quoting these verses, he has accepted the Dvaita, means accepted the distinction between the Supreme Lord and the living entity. So, who else can Madhva really point out these things? And he says, to the extent, he says, Mayavad is a disease. They who are afflicted with jaundice, he says, cannot taste sweetness of sugar. Indeed, to them sugar is bitter. Those whose eyes are diseased cannot see the victims or cannot see the whiteness of the conch shell, because they see everything to be yellow. Those whose minds are always disturbed by frantic plans to attain sense gratification cannot understand spiritual purity. In the same way, they who are afflicted with the Mayavad disease, they use the word Mayavad disease, cannot perceive the happiness in worshipping and glorifying Lord Krishna. Now, Jiveshwaravada refuted. Another problem with the Mayavad is Jiveshwaravada. So what is this Jiveshwaravada? Ocean water is salty and river water has no salt. Now there are many examples they give. Whenever we meet the Mayavadis, generally these are the examples which they give to show that after liberation, the soul becomes Brahman. These are the things which they give. Ocean water is salty and river water has no salt. By observing their different qualities, the difference between the river and the ocean may be perceived. The difference between the individual soul and Supreme Lord, Personality of God, may be seen in the same way by becoming conscious of their different qualities. So now, although waters of the river flow to the ocean from all directions, rivers and ocean do not become one in all respect. The ocean water remains salty, the river water remains fresh. They do not lose their natures in the same way milk and water. These are general examples they give. Like the river meets the ocean, in the same way the soul meets the Supreme Lord and merges into the Supreme Lord, Supreme Brahman. Now Srimad Madhva says, even though the river meets the ocean, the river is river, the ocean is ocean. River water is sweet, the ocean water is salty. You cannot just say they both are same. And they give another example of milk. They say, oh, milk and water are very different. They also do not lose their nature even when they are mixed together. Now Madhvacharya gives a very wonderful example, he says. Now people say, Mayavadis say, you put water in milk, it becomes milk. But my dear sir, you may say you put water in milk, but it becomes milk, but it doesn't become milk. Water is water, milk is milk. To distinguish between water and milk, you require a Paramahamsa. Isn't it? So, Crow cannot do that. Paramahamsas can do that. So, generally these are the examples they give, these Mayavadis. You see, river water meets the ocean, and you see this milk, put water in the milk, so what? So when water and milk are mixed together, an ordinary person cannot distinguish where the milk and where the water is. Although a swan, Hamsa, can separate. In the same way, when the individual soul enters the body of Mahavishnu at the time of cosmic bliss, Mayavadis cannot distinguish where are the individual souls and where the Lord is. All the devotees who understand everything through the instructions of bona fide spiritual master can distinguish them immediately. Once you get these examples, you can easily refute them. A quantity of milk may be mixed with some milk, and quantity of water may be mixed with water. Even though the substance are the same, the smaller quantity does not become one in all respect with the larger quantity. Rather, the difference of volume remains. In the same way, by engaging in yoga meditation, one may appear to merge in the Supreme Lord. The yogi does not actually become the same as the Lord because the yogi remains tiny. The Lord remains all great. This is the description by all the transcendentalists. Oh Mayavadi friend, if you, I and everyone else were actually Supreme Brahman and there is no real distinction between us, then we are all actually all one. Now he gives a very example. He says, we are all one, no? So then, if it is true, then your wealth, your child, your wife, and all your possessions are actually mine also. I claim them now. Give it to me at once. Give it to me. Oh, Mayavadi friend, if you are actually all the supreme, then the division of Varnashrama has no meaning. And the order of prohibitions of Vedas also have no meaning. You claim to base your theory on Vedas, but your theory leads its followers to ultimately reject Vedas. What is the difference between your theory and atheistic Buddhism? If Buddhists are heretic and offenders of rejecting Veda, why are you also not heretic for the same reason? So in this way, if everything is one, I am you, you are that person, and everybody is Supreme Lord. So if I am you, what is the difference between you and me? There is no difference. So yours is mine, mine is yours. So give your property to me. The dream concept. The Mayavadis compare material existence to a dream. They talk about this dream. We also say that this material world is like a dream. But when they say dream and we say dream, it's a lot of difference. Mayavadi's friend says that, compares material existence to a dream. But in truth, it is not like a dream. The dreaming condition is full of many faults. In a dream, one may eat and drink unlimitedly, but he will never become satiated. Although in the working condition, one quickly becomes satiated by eating and drinking. The use of this analogy by the Mayavadi is a great blunder, for the waking condition is not at all like a dream. There is a distinction. The biggest problem in the Mayavadi philosophy, they say Shushupti, Swapna and Jagrat, they are all Swapna. But we say there is a distinction. There are three states of conditioned consciousness. Sushupti, Jagrat, Swapna. There are three states of conditioned consciousness. Now, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mitya consciousness is refuted. Mayavadi friend, you may say that the material world is unreal, just when a garland of flowers is mistaken for a snake in the dark. The imagined snake has no existence. This is a poor analogy. In this analogy, one thing is mistaken for other, but still the garland exists. This analogy did not show that the material world has no existence. In truth, the material world exists eternally, although constantly changing. Now, Vairagya of the Mayavadis, they say everything is Maya, this is Maya, that is Maya, this is Maya. When one is intent on enjoying material sense objects, he is called a Vishayi. And rejection of the enjoying spirit is called Vairagya, renunciation. That renunciation makes one able to attain the supreme goal, that is pure devotional service. So, Mayavadis say that rejecting the object of enjoyment is renunciation. No. Rejecting the object of enjoyment is not renunciation. Rejecting the enjoying spirit is called renunciation. It's a lot of difference. I say, I reject the object of enjoyment. That is actually not called renunciation. That is Mayavad. Mayavadis, they want to reject matter. But Vaishnavas, they want to reject the enjoying tendency of matter. So, renunciation has to be understood properly. Renunciation means renouncing or giving up enjoying tendency, not matter in itself. Soham. People say this, no? Soham, soham, soham. Soham, soham. Acha, he says that. He says anything. Whatever comes to him, he says. And the people take it as spirituality. I don't know what else. He is the biggest. He said, I am actually madman. Anything comes to the mind, he speaks. Whatever comes, he says. Somebody asked him a question, are you God? Then he says, any doubt? Any doubt? What is this? Any doubt? Ravi Shankar, he took the name of Pandit. Pandit, he's Pamara, not Pandit. Yeah, somebody asked a question in public in Bangalore about his birthday or somebody. Then, then he asked, Shankar, Guruji, are you God? That was the question. Then he looks at everybody, audience like this, very like a film hero. I smile. This says, any doubt? And then at the end he says, Radha Ramana Hari Bol. Radha Ramana. Crazy. The only reason why he is successful because he allows mixing of man and woman. Free mixing. There is no much difference between Rajneesh and him. I boldly tell. You just go to his functions. What happens? It is just they're in college, boys and girls, they just work together. It's a meeting place for them. On the name of spirituality, you get, you are spiritual, at the same time you can enjoy. It is just free mixing. There is no clear-cut segregation of man and woman. Anyhow, even Shankara at least. Okay, anyhow. Very strict in sannyas. Even Shankara, at the end of his life, at the end when he's about to leave his unmanifest his pastimes, there was nobody because he was rejected from his. There was nobody who took care of his mother. When his mother was about to leave our body, by his divine thought, he came to know that his mother is now leaving her body, and nobody was there to take care of her. Just she's alone, old mother. Then Shankara, he went there and he lit the fire to his mother's body. And everybody told, hey, you are a sannyasi and you are lighting fire. Sannyasi is not supposed to light fire. Neither for cooking, neither for sanskars, neither for any other activity. If he lights fire for cooking, he has to commit suicide. Sannyasi. That is why Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, real sannyasi is not one who doesn't light fire. Niragri nachakriyaha. Sannyasi doesn't mean niragni. There was one Madhva sannyasi, very young boy. In Madhva Sampradaya, they give sannyas, Bala sannyas. Madhvacharyas took sannyas at the age of 10. They take sannyas at the age of 8, 9, like that. Puttagamar Swamiji took a sannyas at the age of 8. Like that is a small, young boy, about 12, 13-year-old sannyasi. Then he was traveling like one village to other village and preaching, and for many days he did not get any bhiksha. So he was going through the forest. He thought, let me cook some kandamulas there, and then so he took some stones and tried to light fire. At that time, another sannyasi came, very old, senior sannyasi came, and he saw this junior sannyasi. He told, you are lighting fire. It's against your sannyas dharma. For that you have to give up your body. So then what to do? So he went to his guru and asked, this is what the other sannyasi told. Then the guru told, the only price chitta for you for this is, you have to write a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the Vaishnava. Then he wrote a commentary, and he is known as Vijay Dvaja Tirtha. Vijay Dvaja Tirtha's commentaries. He wrote a commentary in Bhagavatam based on Madhva Siddhanta. So, we say Vairagya. Vairagya means what? Vairagya is not, renunciation is not renouncing work, renouncing objects of enjoyment. We don't use the word enjoyment, objects, renouncing object. Renouncing the house is not renunciation. Renouncing a wife or a child is not renunciation. Renouncing the enjoying tendency, that is renunciation.
You were saying about Shankaracharya while leaving his body.
Yeah, Shankaracharya, he went, not his leaving his body, when his mother was leaving. He went there and he did the final rites of his mother. A sannyasi is not supposed to do that, but he did it. Even Shankara is the acharya for renunciation of objects. Because Mayavadis, they say, renounce the object. But Vaishnavas say, renounce the enjoying mentality of the object. That's the difference between Vairagya. Now, Soham. Yeah. Ah. Now, a very interesting point. Oh Mayavadi teacher, why do you teach the slogan Soham? I am the supreme. I do not show any signs of supremacy at all. In fact, I am very weak, unlucky, and bereft of all opulence. Just as a troop of insects reside within a ripe udumbara fruit, all the material universe composed of subtle and gross material elements and populated by innumerable spirit souls rest within the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead during the time of cosmic devastation, and then emerge at the time of cosmic creation. At that time, they do not rest within the Lord. In truth, they remain always separated from Him. O Mayavadi teacher, I am not as great as He. How is it possible or sensible for the slogan Soham? I am supreme to come to my mouth. How can I do that? How can I chant this? I am like that insect in the udumbra fruit. And I am weak. I am suffering. And saying Soham, Soham. What is this Soham? In this way, Madhva, he goes on like this. Only some extract I have given. So ultimately, after writing the entire Bhashya, when Madhva was about, when Sripad Shankaracharya was about to manifest his pastimes, he prayed to his family deity. It's still there, beautiful deity of Shankara. Shankara's family deity. Krishna is his family deity. In South India, in Kerala, there is a place called Kaladi. If ever you go to Kerala, visit that place. The birthplace of Shankaracharya. There is a huge stupa of his life story and all. And there is a beautiful temple that is a family deity of Shankara. It's a Krishna temple. It's Krishna's deity. He prays to Krishna and says, I have told so many things. And he gives the example that, oh Lord, I have compared a insignificant jiva and told that jiva is you. By giving an example, like the waves of the ocean. There is no distinction between the waves and the ocean. Like the same way, jiva is the wave and ocean is the Supreme Lord. Like there is no distinction between the waves and the ocean, there is no distinction between the jiva and the Supreme Lord. But still, the waves come from the ocean. In this way, that is the final writing, final glorification of Krishna. The waves come from you and they go back to you. So I am going back to you. In this way he goes. He lives. 32 years, Shankaracharya.
Left body.
Yeah, kind of. There is no samadhi of Shankara. He just...
Himalayas nearby Kedarnath, I saw.
That's wrong. It is not leaving body. He just had manifested. They just say the Shankara thing. That is the last point which they saw him. That is what they say. That is the only thing. Yeah, that is the last point. And many Shankara people, they don't agree it. Then because there are many Shankara Vijaya. Because everybody in that line is called a Shankaracharya. So who is still, nobody knows still. But this is for sure that at the age of 8, he took sannyas. Age of 32, he unmanifested. He is Shiva himself. So in the span of 24 years, traveled throughout India 3 times. And one good thing he did was he drove away all the Buddhists. And he preached Bhagavad Gita. Since the time Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, till the time Shankara preached Bhagavad Gita was not in light. Nobody used to see Bhagavad Gita also. It is Shankaracharya who brought Bhagavad Gita to light. In the sense, commentary is a separate aspect. He popularized Bhagavad Gita. And he wrote the Gita Mahatmya, Gita Dhyanam, on which Prabhupada gives a beautiful commentary in that book called Science of Self-Realization. If you ever get that book to read that book. In that, Prabhupada, there's one chapter. India's greatest Mayavadi saints accept Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's one chapter like that. In the chapter, he comments on, Prabhupada gives a commentary on Sripad Shankaracharya's work of Gita Dhyanam. In South India, when children are taught Bhagavad Gita, before Bhagavad Gita chanting, you are supposed to do this Gita Dhyanam. Arthaya pratibhoditam bhagavata narayana swayam vyasena gratitam purana muninam madhye mahabharatam advaitam vritavarshinim bhagavatim ashtadashadhyayinim ambatvam manashantadami bhagavad gite bhavadveshinim. Like that it goes. Many verses are there. And Prabhupada comments on all the verses very nicely. And he says, just see, Shankaracharya is accepting Krishna as Supreme Lord. The greatest Mayavadi scholar. And then Bhaja Govindam is very famous. All devotees know. Everybody knows Bhaja Govindam. You know about Bhaja Govindam? If you read Bhaja Govindam, Vairagya will come. Tremendous Vairagya is there in that. If you just go on chanting in a particular Vairagya tune, then you will feel like, what is this world, where I am staying? Just give up and just go to Vrindavan or something like that. that mood comes. Tremendous Vairagya comes. He also says, Kate Kanta Pate Putra. Who is this? Who is this wife? Who is this son? I don't know how long I am going to stay. What is this body? Like that it goes on. And there's so many books he has written, except 3 or 4 books of Shankara, which talk about Advaita Siddhanta. All are glorifications of Krishna, glorifications of the Lord. Of course, many deities are also being glorified. Anyhow, the classes on Shankara is over. We'll beg pardon from Shankara if he is hurt. We just repeated Acharya's words, what to do. It is a fight between Madhva and Shankara. We don't want to get in between, but we are supporters of Madhva, Ramanuja, Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We belong to this party, what to do. Hare Krishna. So now, Buddhism. Finish Buddhism. I don't think by 8 o'clock. Buddhism is of 4 kinds. Buddhism is of 4 kinds. As I told, Buddhism actually comes from Nyaya Vaisheshika. Only thing is, Nyaya Vaisheshikas, they say God, Veda and all. Buddhists, they say no God, no Veda. That is their primary thing. Primary difference between Nyaya Vaisheshikas and Buddhism is, they say no God, no Veda. So before we go to the discussion of Buddhism, this is one page. Buddhism and Jainism from Tattva Vivek. 1 page notes. We'll first read that. Tattva Vivek by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So let's see what he says about Buddhism and Jainism. A philosophy of cessation, nirvana of existence. A philosophy like the Buddhists and Jains philosophies was also preached in Europe. This philosophy was known as pessimism. Buddhism and pessimism are not different at all. They are different in only one way. Let's see what is that. In Buddhism, the soul wanders from one birth to another, always suffering. So they accept multiple bodies, means reincarnation. By following the principles of Buddhism, the soul gradually attains nirvana, preliminary cessation of existence, and then parinirvana, final cessation of existence. So they have liberation in 2 steps. One is known as nirvana, preliminary liberation. Ultimately there is parinirvana, that is final cessation. In the philosophy of pessimism, the soul does not have birth after birth. Thus, the philosophy of cessation of existence is of two kinds: cessation of existence after one birth, cessation of existence after many births. So, Buddhism is cessation of existence after many births. Buddhism and Jainism belong to the second group. Means among the two groups which I mentioned before, that means cessation of existence after multiple births. Both accept transmigration of soul, according to Buddhism, after many births of practicing kindness and renunciation. One becomes first a bodhisattva and finally a Buddha. Then he will become a Buddha. In this philosophy, by practicing humbleness, peacefulness, tolerance, kindness, selflessness, meditation, renunciation and friendliness, the soul eventually attains parinirvana. In parinirvana, the soul no longer exists. In ordinary nirvana, the soul continues to exist in the form of mercy. The followers of Jainism say, by practicing kindness and renunciation and cultivating all virtues, the soul gradually passes through the stages of, they use the word, just see, Naradatva, Mahadevatva, Vasudevatva, Paravasudevatva, Paravasudevatva, Chakratitva, and at the end, when he attains nirvana, Bhagavatatva, Bhagavatatva, Bhagavatva. Buddhism and Jainism both accept the following ideas: material world is to be eternal, karma has no beginning, but it has an end. These are their teachings. Existence is suffering, and cessation of existence, parinirvana, is happiness. Claims to accept the Vedic authority is inauspicious for living entity. Vedas don't accept, it's inauspicious. Indra and other demigods are servant of sages who seek nirvana. Ultimately, this Buddhism came why? Because Sakya Simha. Don't ascribe Buddhism to Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha of Incarnation Krishna, please. Lord Buddha's teaching has got nothing to do with Buddhism. Nothing to do with Buddhism. Lord Buddha's teaching was only non-violence. He told non-violence. Ahimsa paramo dharma. When somebody asked him what about God, he kept silence. Buddha himself is God. Do you think he will tell there is no God? He never told there is no God. The Sakya Simha was a person who took the teachings or writings of somebody in the past of atheism and then formalized the text of Buddhism. And he wrote exclusively out of frustration from the Karmakandi Brahmins. As I told, Karmakandi Brahmins were so cruel, and the Kshatriyas, they thought, what kind of Brahmins? Do you think I should serve him? So I'll write a philosophy. Atheism. And all the Kshatriyas just joined that cult. So now, when the dry philosophy of Buddhism became prominent, this philosophy of Maya perversed. Although it matured into newer forms, the Buddhism gradually became influenced by the Tantra Shastras. That is a problem. Buddha, during his time, only not the Buddha, Krishna incarnation Buddha, this Gautam Buddha, he preached. After Sakya Simha, this person preached. Then at the end, he found his followers are doing Tantra Vidya, Tantra Shastras. At that time, Mayavad philosophy was created. It was then the same name Buddhism was attached to the Tantra philosophy. Among the people who had not accepted Buddhism, the Mayavad philosophy, and a philosophy that was actually Buddhism in disguise, was preached. Mayavad was preached at the time. When the philosophy based the Vedas were preached, when that philosophy, some problem is there. The whole point is that Vedas were preached when Mayavad, activities of Mayavadi Vedanta philosophers began. In the mountain parts of India, this philosophy is preached in a different form. In a form following the Tantra, preached by the Tantracharyas, who described the philosophy of Maya Shakti. Many people say the Tantra philosophy comes from Pseudo Kapila's philosophy. I do not agree with the view, although Pseudo Kapila agrees that material nature, Prakriti, is the creator of the world. He also affirmed that spiritual truth is beginningless. Anyway, this is just an extra part of it. The whole point is Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about Buddhism and he gives a summary of what they want to speak in a very simple way. Yes.
Jainis, they are saying this moment they start from the. No, they are saying this. One of the Acharya, Rishabh. They are saying there is a Rishabh is the main
Yes.
Acharya, and they are starting from the Rishabh.
They are all followers of Rishabdev. Rishabdev, if you follow someone, following is of two ways. One is known as anukrama, means you follow what they do, and you follow what they say. Anukaran, anusaran. So anusaran means I follow what he says. Anukaran means I do what he does. So now Krishna, we are not doing anukaran of Krishna. Krishna did ras, so I'll also do ras. That's foolishness. Now what these Jains did was, it's true, they accept Rishabdeva as the first Tirthankara. In their Jain philosophy, their saints, Jain saints are known as Tirthankaras. And in that line, there one big Tirthankara came, Bahubali. If you ever visit Karnataka, near Mysore, but far away from Mysore, quite, there's one place called Shravan Balagola. There's a huge statue of Bahubali standing like this. It's totally naked. They are known as Shvetambars, Digambars. In Jains, they are Digambars, Shvetambars. Anyway, we are not interested in the ritualistic aspect of what they speak. That philosophy comes here. So these people, what they did was, they do Anukaran of Rishabdev. Rishabdev, as we know in the Bhagavatam, he never took bath. Self-realized soul. And from his body, wonderful effulgences to come. And it's from his stool, effulgences, nice, wonderful smell used to come, because he's a self-realized soul. Now, in the same way, they thought, if he is like that, I will also do the same thing. Without attaining self-realization, they started doing what he did. Then what will happen? They stink. When the Digambars come, if you just cannot go near Digambars, they stink like anything. Oh, horrible is this stink. They walk naked. Even in Bombay, they walk naked. Yeah. It's crazy. They're most demoniac. Very demoniac. And now they are recently preaching Krishna is in hell. The most dangerous people, the amount of, and they are the people who suck the blood of people, cheaters, number one cheaters. Somebody of your Jains, I don't mind. in their Purva pre-initiation or pre-Krishna conscious times, it's so happened. Once I gave a class on these things, and I've now become more mature. Earlier I used to just go on. It so happened there was one devotee who was initiated and he was belonging to a Jain background. And Prabhuji, aisa to nahi hai hum log. Then he told. I was quite humble. I told, forgive me. I told I should speak the truth.
Wasn't there somebody named Arhat or somebody like this?
Arihanta.
Who started the Jain?
Yeah. Yeah, you see, there are many. Starting means for a particular set he is one. Arihanta. You see, Arihanta. Arihanta is one person.
In the Bhagavatam, there is a purport where Prabhupada talks of this man who entered the forest and burned in the forest. And he's at least maybe one of the branches. The Prophet said he was an imitator of Shabbat.
Yeah.
And he became the
True.
made followers like that.
Yeah. So we'll see Buddhism for a few minutes. See, Buddhism is basically 4 branches. You have Vaibhashikas and Sautrantikas and your Yogachara and you have Madhyamikas or Shunyavada or Vaidism. You have this paper. So we'll just go briefly and we have to finish this thing and I have to go to class there also. Let's see. Now, Vedanta Sutta, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu, he just categorizes the first 2 kinds of Buddhism and then talks together because their philosophy mostly is the same. That is why he says the first 2 schools divide the material world into 2 categories of phenomena, physical and mental. Under these categories are listed 5 skandhas. Now he has got 2 categories. Under these 2 categories, physical and mental, he's got 5 skandhas. One is called Rupa, other is called Rupa means includes earth, water, fire, these elements. And the other one is known as mental phenomena. They are Vijnana and the streams of consciousness, that is the ego. Vedana, repetition of pleasure and pain. Vedana. And Sanya, names and words. And Sanskara. These 4 come under the mental category. The first one, that is Rupa, is under the physical category. Now, they say nothing exists beyond these categories, according to the Vaibhashikas and Sautrantika Buddhists. Nothing exists beyond this. Even if the validity of these categories are accepted, they still do not account for everything in the universe. Vedanta says, Vyasa says, they don't account for everything in the universe. Like spiritual nature of the soul, what about it? They are not talking about it. And the super soul, the living entities, they are left out. They are spiritual nature. What is soul? What is super soul? They are not talking about it. Now they say, they may object. The starting point of the psychological phenomena is not spiritual. They say, no, spiritual has got nothing to do with consciousness and spirituality, forget. The starting point is ignorance. Ignorance is set into motion. An ever-turning cycle, casual cycle of 12 phases. Ignorance, from ignorance these things come. Sanskars, past impressions, initial awareness, the psychological organism like Nama Rupa, the 6 organs of cognition, Shadayatana, and the contact of the senses with the objects, Sparsha, previous sense experiences, Vedana, thirst to enjoy, Trishna, mental attachment, Upadana, the will to be, Bhava, the birth, Jati, old age and death, Jara-marana, ignorance again. In this way the cycle goes on. From ignorance, again these things, it goes on and on. That is what there says. Soul and consciousness is not in our philosophy. Remove it. Spirituality or consciousness, these things, it's not in our dictionary at all. Though you may say, you are not spoken about the soul, why you should speak something which is not there? That's their objection. And they say, these 12 are only secondary causes. We say that Buddhists adhere to a doctrine of ever-changing equilibrium, in which an effect is said to exist only when the cause has ceased to exist. This is Arambhavada. Arambhavada means when the effect
Not exist in his cause.
Doesn't exist in the cause. Even though there is a cause, what happens? As soon as the effect manifests, the cause gone. Like the seed. Seed is the cause for the tree. When the tree comes, can you find the seed? No seed. That is their philosophy. They say that a tree is only when the seed is no longer. So that effect will cease to exist as soon as it becomes the cause of another effect. In this ever-changing ideas are there. Now, for example, A gives rise to B. As soon as B manifests, A is gone. B gives rise to C. As soon as C comes, B is gone. So you're saying, you understand the point? This is what they say. Such change takes place everywhere in every moment. Thus, physical and mental existence is but a stream of corollary events that flash by like the frames of motion of picture film. Accordingly, avidya simply appears and disappears, to be followed by the appearance and disappearance of sanskars, vijnana, etc. One after other. In this way, they just come and then go, come and then go. But ever-changing equilibrium forbids any permanent governing principle around which the 12 phases of causation may revolve. The cycle of 12 causes is thus like a wheel of 12 spokes. Now the Vedantis say, oh, very good, one after the other going on, we accept it like a 12 spokes wheel, you're very logical. But your system says it is like a cycle of 12 causes, it's like a wheel of 12 spokes that has no axle. There is no axle on which it to turn. If there is no fundamental principle behind the 12 phases, why do the Buddhists describe them as progressing in a set order? How can they say that we are progressing if you are in this chakra only? The substratum of causation cannot be nothingness. If it were, then anything would manifest from anywhere. If everything came from nothing, then anything can come from anywhere. Anytime. No control. At any time. Hoisting nothingness as the ultimate substratum of everything would also violate ever-changing equilibrium. For then, nothingness itself would be an unmanifested constant. Uninterrupted constants. So, if one leads to other, one leads to other, one leads to other, where is the end? Where is the end? Because according to Buddhist philosophy, this is the problem. Vedantis say, if it is ever-changing thing, then I think he says that is a uninterrupted constant, that nothingness. The Buddhist theory of Nirodha, total annihilation, is false. There is no ultimate annihilation of anything because the subject, vastu, of all things is permanent, though it is subject to transformation. There may be transformations, but what is transforming? Is a subject. There is one thing called soul which is transforming. It's missing in their philosophy. So you cannot account for it. The Buddhists define liberation as total annihilation of the causal cycle of 12 phases. They say annihilation means these 12 phases which goes on constantly changing. When they give up, when it stops, then it is called liberation. They speak of Prati Sankhya Nirodha, a form of annihilation in which conscious will takes part, and Aprati Sankhya Nirodha, which occurs without conscious effort. Oh, no, they talk two kinds of liberation. One is, I do a conscious effort and try to get liberated. Other is, I get liberated without any conscious effort. Now, the Vedantis say, that if liberation is to be accepted, to be achieved by the first Nirodha, that means by the conscious effort, then what is the use of unconscious Nirodha? Unconscious second concept. And if somebody accepts that without any conscious effort, one gets liberation, how cycle goes on and on and on, and one day automatically the cycle gets off, this 12-spoke cycle. Then, if that is the case, why the Buddhists are trying for liberation? Why they are working so hard? Why do they doing austerity and all to get release from the causal? What is the use of their disciplinary and meditational efforts practiced by the Buddhists to get released from the causal cycle? The Buddhists define Akasha as a state of Nirodha. But Akasha is an element of, now they say Akasha, after liberation there is only Akash. They talk about Akash. Now if it is Akash, then Akash is one of the elements, 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether. Then there is no zero. The theory of ever-changing equilibrium is refuted by the fact of memory. Memory demonstrates consciousness as the constant factor behind the changing appearance matter. Now, if everything is going on changing, one change leads to the other change. As soon as other change comes, the previous change unmanifest. What about memory then? Okay, I did something today. I read something. Now it is in my memory. And my reading has gone to a further another thing. Then my reading should not be there in the memory also. Well, how do you explain memory? The Buddhists cannot explain this memory. But they influence consciousness to represent the object through internal forms, ideas, that they are created from consciousness itself. Through external objects, though external objects vanish from the moment to moment in the stream of ever-changing equilibrium, they continue to exist as ideas or memories. They say, they continue to exist as ideas and memories. It is not logical to poise that the persistence of the name, form, etc. of an empirical eternal object in an internal representation, because the substance of consciousness is also empirical according to Buddhistic philosophy. Now, according to Buddhistic philosophy, even though they talk about impressions, ideas, and conscious effort, according to them, consciousness is only theoretical. When it is theoretical, where is the question of any experience of emotions? So, in this way, Vedanta, it refutes Buddhism. In fact, there is an internal reality to all ephemeral things. Though the Sautrantika doctrine does not propound it. In all, finally, in all existence, if all existence is simply a ever-changing equilibrium, then there could be no steady motivation to attain anything. Okay, if everything is just changing, any of the change is not gone by my conscious effort, then there is no motivation to attain anything. A person, his desire and his goal would be but unique events that exist only for a moment. Even though he is working hard, it exists only for a moment. To be replaced by a different person, desire and goal in the next moment, as there is no permanent substratum to determine the order of events, results would appear without any real cause. If the cycle is very much defined early only, what is the question of working hard for a particular result? Because already everything is set up. Thus, it would be useless to direct one's effort to attain result. Simply by his existence in a fortuitous instant of time, a person who does nothing would attain his desired goal. Yet Buddhists direct themselves to the future goal of liberation. So in this way, this first kind of people are, like Buddhists, are defeated. See, the Buddhism, though it goes through complicated words and sentences, the summary is this. According to the Buddhists, there are 12 things, 12 situations. It's like a cycle. And it's already governed how one situation comes after the situation, one situation comes after the situation. And now the entire argument is based on this point, that how these Buddhists can say why I should work hard for something, for achieving some material goal or even for liberation, if everything is predestined. So for this, there is no answer for them. That's what is clear. We got some few pages, but only thing is I need to go there. So we'll just, tomorrow in 10 minutes we'll finish up Buddhism and Jainism, go to our Tattva Sutras overview.